Excellent. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a Mighty Blaze special event. I am Jenna Blum, one of the co-founders of The Blaze, and tonight I am here with Helen Ellis. Welcome, Helen. We're so happy to have you.
I am so happy to be here. I already have been talked dirty to, and I can't wait for the night to go on. Thank you.
I mean, who was talking dirty to you? Certainly not me.
Oh, it was you.
It kind of was me.
Are you encouraging me to talk dirty?
I am, because this is like it's after 6 somewhere, so we might as well talk a little dirty. And Helen has gentlemen on scaffolding outside her New York apartment who I was kind of hopeful might have been talking dirty to both of us, but it's all good. I can take the place of them. So a little promo for The Blaze. If you are new here, hi Anissa. Anissa is not new here. She always brings the party. It's not a party until Anissa shows up, but now we can do it. So Mighty Blaze is an organization of 35 professional creative volunteers that has connected authors and their readers since March 2020 and will continue to do so during COVID, during Delta, Omicron, BA12, like whatever it is now, during Zelda. We will be here forever to bring authors to their readers and get that party started. If you like what you see here, please give us a like or a follow on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Goodreads. We are ubiquitous. And check out our website at www.mightyblaze.com to see what we have coming up. And you will never have literary FOMO ever again. No more FOMO. Nobody likes that. Welcome. And tonight we are hosting the woman who taught me in one of her previous books what bless her heart really means when somebody says it to you in the South. Like, I am a Yankee born and bred. I was born in New York City. Hi, Francine. Hi. Francine knows what bless her heart really means. So I was born in the North, and I went to the South once in one of the supermarket checkers when I couldn't find something, and like the Winn-Dixie was like, "Oh, bless your heart," and I'm like, "Everybody's so nice here." And then I read Helen's book, and I was like, Southern Lady Code, and I was like, "Oh, they all think I'm a freaking moron."
No.
Well, yes. So one of the things that I love so much about your work, Helen, which I can't wait to talk about, is that you are kind of like, I want to say, like, Steel Magnolias had a baby with Nora Ephron.
I love that.
But with more
sex.
Yes, but with more sex. So like that's the blurb. And tonight we are here to talk about Helen's new book, which is Bring Your Baggage and Don't Pack Light, which I'm happy to say I did not do. And I bought a drink called the Baggage, which is basically like a giant pina colada with ice cream and bourbon because I had no rum, which is sad. And I'm about to put collagen in it. And I would like you guys to guess like what is in Helen's cup. Like, we're gonna have a little competition.
Mm-hmm.
You can guess
Take your guesses.
There's my collagen, which I'm putting in here because a lot of Helen's new
Put some in here.
I wish I could. You know, Zoom is like a little limited, and even StreamYard is limited.
The baggage drink. That's right. I love that.
I have like big baggage. I actually legit have big baggage, and this has like a shit ton of bourbon and collagen. Like,
the more you drink, the more entertaining I am.
Oh my God, I say that all the time. And it's so
true. The better I look.
It's so true. I hope you have a big thing of vodka in that glass. So yeah, everybody can guess what Helen has in the drink. Helen, tell us about baggage. I would like to hear about baggage.
Well, I'll tell you, Bring Your Baggage and Don't Pack Light is really a celebration of female friendships, and especially female friendships of a certain age. You know, the very first piece in the book is called Grown Ass Ladies Gone Mild. And it all stemmed from a trip that I took with 4 friends that I've known since I was 12 years old. And on that trip, one of our friends came with a bad mammogram result, and the other friend came very happily remarried after a hard first marriage. And we were all together, and there was just no judgment whatsoever. And it was like a fountain of youth. And all I could think during the trip was, I'm so proud of this group of women who are survivors in so many different senses of the word. And then I just started to look around and see, gosh, I'm so proud of a friend of mine who was 50 years old and had a baby on her own. Or, oh gosh, I'm so proud of this other friend of mine who throws, you know, the best type of party. And so it was just a celebration of, you know, sticking with each other. And as I say, you know, we bring our baggage and we don't pack light.
I totally love that. It's this beautiful way to describe it. I didn't think about the essays because the book is a collection of essays. It's not short stories, which your previous books are. But I didn't think of it as being looking around and look how beautiful we are with this beautiful book. Also, it has a cake on it. Like, who does not want to just eat this cover?
Yes.
Sorry, I had a squirrel moment there where it's just like, oh, let's talk about the book. Squirrel. It's such a beautiful book. Love it.
I do love the cover. I do. There's a lot of cakes in the book, and I love it because, as you can see, there's just a million, well, maybe not a million, maybe 50, in my case, 51 candles on the cake. And that just looks, it doesn't look like a house on fire. It just looks like a party ready to get started. And I see that cake and I think, I want to be part of that party. So I love it.
Are there actually, do you know? Do you know how many candles are on this?
I'm going to guess, and I'm going to say 51 because I'm 51.
I also am 51. So
Cheers to
like,
that.
Cheers to that. And we look awesome.
We look great.
Look at where's my drink?
Yeah. How's my neck? How's my neck?
I'm going to liberate my neck right now.
It's good. Your neck looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's a StreamYard thing. I'm going to put this back. And that's like an unfair thing. It's like you can do whatever to this. Like I have a plastic surgeon I actually went to during the pandemic because I'm like, it's a doctor's
This is
office.
the time to do it.
What could go wrong, right? So I'm like, put some dermal filler in here and here. But there's nothing you can do about your neck, right? This is the Nora Ephron conundrum.
Well, the only thing I did in the pandemic was I did something about my neck because I had like a big double chin, and always all my life I had a double chin, and I got Kybella, and I wrote about it. I wrote about
oh my God, I read so much about Kybella. Oh my God.
Yes, and I will tell you, it was the time to do it was the pandemic because what it is it's 20 shots of stomach bile to the neck.
Oh my God.
And you swell up like a bullfrog, and you wear scarves constantly, and then it eats it away. I don't know whose stomach bile it is, but it did the trick. And so I feel better. I feel better about my neck as opposed to.
Oh my God. Let us see. You're going to turn to the side, turn to the side. Let's all admire. You have a beautiful neck and chin line.
Thank you.
This is like the best interview I have ever had.
I'll tell you all my secrets, and I'll tell you how much it costs.
Oh my God, I want to know how much. So I actually know about this because like I do this sort of Botoxy thing, right? And I've seen the ads for Kybella, and every time somebody says to me like, "Oh, I have a gobbler," which is what my ex used to call it, like a gobbler, I'm like, "You could get Kybella. It's just a shot, and then you have to wear a compression stocking on your neck for like a week, and then you look at. Did you have to wear a compression stocking?"
Let me tell you, it is much more involved than that. It is 20 shots to the neck. And I did it 4 times over the course of several months. You do it several times, and you really, I guess I should have thought of getting a compression sock and cutting off the toe and putting it on, but I just wore scarves, really just for modesty's sake. But it's only maybe 7 years old, the process, because I had been talking about my dermatologist for years and years, ever since I was in my 30s, about my neck. And you can't have a gobbler. You have to have a full neck.
Oh my God.
You know, when you picture a big bar of Dove soap, like that's what you have to have happening under there. So other people, I have other friends who get Botox in their neck because they have like a crepey neck. You know, they have lines in their neck. And so I know
get Botox for the lines.
People put Botox in their neck. Yeah, friends that do that. People are putting it in or taking it out.
Oh my gosh, that is insane. So I kind of feel like if I did that, something bad would happen and I would not be able to talk anymore. Although most of the world probably would be like, wow, that would be a great thing, Jenna. At least if you did it for like half the day, you could maybe.
I couldn't cut myself. That's something I couldn't cut myself. I'm still like, I have not done Botox or filler or anything. And I'm working my way up to that. But now after the Kybella, I think that I could.
And so 20 shots, did it hurt?
Yes, it hurt very badly.
Oh my God.
Yes, it hurt very badly, but not too badly. You know, like enough that I would do it 3 more times. And it's bizarre. But it was a good, you know, it was a good procedure. Let's see, going to check my neck right now. If you have to check it, then you don't have a problem.
Right, that's exactly right.
Fine.
That's exactly right. It's the kind of thing where you wake up in the morning, and lest you all think the interview has gone completely off the rails, I will say that a lot of the essays in the book are about being this certain age and what that is actually like, instead of just being like, oh, we're all the Golden Girls now. Like there is some ish going on in all of these essays. So,
well, and I will tell you that if you want to know, I mean, I do write about that process, so I even more detail at the end of the book. But I did pay for it with this advance for writing this book. So instead of a double chin, I have a double day chin. That's what I like to
Oh my
call it.
God, that's fantastic. I feel as though that is like totally appropriate to have done some lady things that you wanted to do with this book. So, what is your favorite essay in this book? And actually, before you answer that question, you touched it on that, but why essays after short stories? And which one did you like better and why?
That's a really good question. I never thought I would write nonfiction ever. I always wanted to be a novelist, short story writer. And after I wrote American Housewife, which is all short stories, magazine. Oh, there it is. Some nice magazine editors asked me, "Would you like to write nonfiction? Like, would you like to write about Garden and Gun?" Asked me, "Would you like to write about going to play poker with your father in Mississippi, or
Oh my
can you
God,
write
no.
about how to write a thank you note?" And I just lied and said, "Yes, I can do it. I'll do it." And I wrote a piece called "Making a Marriage Magically Tidy" for Southern Lady Code about how I became a recovering slob to save my marriage. And Modern Love published it in the New York Times, and it was just a huge, huge hit. And Doubleday said to me, "Would you write more of these?" And I said, "Yes," not knowing at all how I would make it happen. And I have to tell you, I've just turned in today. I met with my editor, and I've just finished my third book of true stories. And, essays sound so snooty, but because it's just funny true stories. And I have to say, the essays are so easy for me to write because I am 51 years old and I don't have to make anything up. It's just people I know and myself and my opinions. And so on one hand, it's really easier than fiction. But at the same time, it's a little bit more vulnerable on my part, talking about what I wish I had been talked to about, why I love Nora Ephron is that she talks about your neck. And so in Southern Lady Code, I wrote about not having children because I wish I had had that to read as a younger woman. Or, in this book, I wrote about menopause, around the corner, and, plastic surgery and mental health and things that I wish had been talked to me about, at a younger age. So it is a lot easier and I like it. But I was talking to my editor today and I said, "I'm ready to write fiction because I'm ready to be mean again."
Yeah.
I just want to be mean and lie and make stuff up.
I'm glad that you're not mean IRL and then putting
No.
that in the essays, but it's true. Like there is something that's very liberating about fiction because
Yeah.
you can be the worst person you can think of, like when you're writing that character. I usually write fiction, but I just wrote my first memoir as well last year. And people ask me this all the time, like, what is
Yeah.
the difference? Which one do you like better? And exactly what you said, which is I didn't have to make anything up. It was so restful. So
Yeah.
like, even writing about the worst day that I had in that it was about my old dog in the last 7 months of his life. And, oh, like even the hardest thing to write, which was letting my dog go, was like in some writerly sense much easier than being like, now what the hell are those people going to do and how am I going to keep readers interested and still have it seem organic? Like so difficult, right?
Yes, and novels are very long.
Oh my God. They are. And the memoir was so short. It was a slender volume.
Yes.
It was like so
Yes.
heavy. It was like a novel that had Kybella, for
That's
instance,
right.
and like slim chapters down. So what was the most vulnerable thing you felt that you wrote in Baggage?
Baggage, it had to be "Are You There, Menopause? It's Me, Helen." Because we all remember reading Judy Blume's "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret." And when we were, 10, 11, 12, we kept waiting for our periods to start, for this new life to start. And now at 51, we're all waiting for our periods to stop. And the thing that people don't tell you about menopause is that it goes on for a very, very long time. So it was just this moment. It was like a coming of middle age piece I wanted to write. And, sharing things like hot flashes and mood swings and things like that was very intimate for me to do. But I'm glad that I did it.
I'm glad you did too. I really felt that because when you're a girl, you know so much and so much misinformation about what is going to happen to you. There are all the rumors and old wives' tales and whatever, but like what is going to happen. And with menopause, it's like you just jump off a cliff
And it's always something new. And that's I'm like, is this part of it? Every time I think to myself, something happens. Is this rash part of it? Is this mood part of it? Is this a hot flash? Or am I just, near the pizza stove? What's happening?
Right. Or am I just like permanently cranky now? Or is this like
Is
a
this my
hormonal
real
thing?
personality?
Right, exactly. No, it's just my new personality. Is it the pandemic or is it you, menopause? It's us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
interesting.
do find myself now, I mean, you and I have, I'm sure, been menstruating for a very long time.
I mean,
And
awful.
I find, the PMS has gotten so much more intense for me as in perimenopause. And now I try to harness that power. If I'm in a bad mood or an intolerable mood, I use it to my advantage. I make decisions very quickly. I speak my mind more definitely. I'm not as careful. So I try to come up with the bright side.
That's a good time to meet with your editor.
That's
You have
exactly right.
this massive PMS and you're just put that chocolate on the table and I'm not.
That's right. It's a good time to play poker too. I'm a beast when I'm, PMSing.
Oh, I imagine. And be like, of course I have a royal flush. Who wants to know?
Who wants to know about it?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Mindy says she's watching this instead of baseball, and I do know how much you love your baseball, Mindy. Thank you. But like
Thank you,
nobody is
Mindy.
getting menopause in baseball. This is much more
That's
entertaining,
right.
right? I mean, there's no menopause in baseball.
There's no menopause. That should have been the line from League of Their Own. There's no menopause in baseball.
When they do the reboot, like when they do the Sex and the City reboot,
Yes.
like when they do that of League of Their Own, it'll be like, there's no menopause in baseball. That would be amazing. That would be like so much fun. They are actually doing a movie of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Like now.
Really? Finally?
Yes, really finally. Yes.
I
Exactly.
reread that. I reread it when I wrote the piece just to remember. And that book really holds up. It's still so terrific.
It's really good. We had the amazing privilege of interviewing Judy Blum for our show Authors Love Bookstores, which is
Oh,
author in their favorite bookstore. And of course, her bookstore was her own bookstore. But the interviewer, Kimberly Hensel Lawrence, who is the on-air host of that show, she was so in awe that for like 4 to 5 months before she did the interview, she reread the whole Judy Blum library.
oh,
And then right after the interview, I shouldn't actually tell you guys this, but it was incredibly moving. Like Judy Blum got on, she was so great. She brought her husband, George. They were in the bookstore. We were like, we love you. You changed everybody's lives, like
yeah.
this whole generation. And then afterwards, Kimberly like got off and I was like, that was one for the books. And she burst into tears and just
I
like,
am sure.
for like 10 minutes while we just sat there and beamed to her. It was so moving.
I would do exactly the same thing.
It was
That's
so
a
good.
great thing to do for your 50th anniversary is to reread it.
I agree, right? I
Yeah.
also think that we should send Judy Blum a copy of Baggage so that she can read Are You There? Menopause It's Me. Just send it to Books and Books. Like, I'm sure she would love it. She was great. So what has the response been to that essay and to the other essays in the book?
Well, I'll tell you, I haven't heard as much response as I would like to because of the pandemic. I'm so used to going out on tour and hearing it face to face, but what I'm hearing is an appreciation for it, saying things that other people don't feel comfortable saying. I hear a lot of women saying, I read this section to my husband. I made my husband read this section. And I have a lot of grown-ass lady gangs, posting on social media of groups hanging out together and reading it. So it's been great. It's been great.
That is so fun that you have grown-ass lady gangs.
Yes. It's not a girls' trip. It's a grown-ass ladies' trip.
Oh, it is a grown-ass ladies trip, and I love that essay. And speaking of reading, would you read us something,
Oh, yes.
please? I love
This is your request. So
this. It is my request.
everyone, she asked for this.
This will not surprise anybody. And tell us what the title of the essay is and what page. So those of you who have the party can follow
The
along.
title of the essay is Happy Birthday, You're Still Fuckable.
Yes.
And this comes in the middle of the essay because I talk about if you come to dinner at my house back in the pre-pandemic days, as soon as you left, I would talk to my husband about your sex life. So it begins on page 39. In our marriage, my talent is talking about you and your sex life, which I know nothing about. Unless I do, if you've told me about your sex life, I've told my husband. I've said, those two do it every Saturday. I've said, those two have costumes. I've said, he has a nylon fetish. She has 30 full body stockings. I've said, she listens to 200 erotic audiobooks a year by playing them at 3 times the normal speed so they sound like a chipmunk orgy. I've said, he bought her a vibrator at a Vegas trade show, but it's not really a vibrator. I mean, it vibrates, but it's for the outside, not the inside. There's a suction function, so you have to use lube or you'll burn your clit off. My husband does not appreciate such details because he worries that if a friend has shared something juicy with me, I have reciprocated. You know, tits for tats, like a pornography potluck. My husband worries that if he engages with me, he'll encourage me. And he's right. Because the only reason to go to a potluck is to then come home and talk about how somebody else uses malt vinegar instead of mayonnaise in their potato salad. Here are things I've told my friends about our sex life. If I want to let my husband know I'm in the mood, I say, put the cats away. If my husband wants to let me know he's in the mood, I've requested that he pull back the covers, climb into bed, and say, give it up for Steve Harvey. If I write something sexual on a to-do list, my husband will do it because to him, a ballpoint check mark is better than a post-coital cigarette.
Oh my gosh. So fantastic. I kind of need to fan myself and have a post-coital cigarette after just listening to that part of the essay. That was beautifully read, I might add. I was like so happy that you read the Steve Harvey line because I had literally underlined that in the book. Like, I love it. So I don't know if you can, I can't tonight, but like, I always love it when people show me what they have underlined in the books and like what they've dog-eared. And I dog-eared everything in that essay. I think one of the reasons I loved it so much is it's sort of a myth-busting property that it had. And like people think like, oh, like once you're over a certain age, like 25, like you just stop being interested in sex. And I was like, you know, we middle-aged hottie women are a greatly undervalued resource when it comes.
Can't get pregnant. We can't get pregnant.
Oh
We're
my
like
God,
teenagers again.
Right? I know, unless, you know, you get very unlucky with your perimenopause and then you're just like, hi, are you there, God? It's me, Jenna, I'm 65 and I have a teenager, but like, no. I mean, like, don't you think like people just think like, oh, your sex drive just tanks? Like, no, right? Like, let's talk about that a little bit.
No, I think, I mean, from what I know, and for me, oh God, let my parents not be watching. You know, it's the 40s. It's my 40s and now my 50s where I'm just far more interested because I just don't worry about it. I've been with the same man for 27 years. So, you know, I'm very comfortable and very appreciative. You know, if I could write a thank you note after every encounter, I would.
I mean, you could, and then you could write a piece about it for Modern Love, like how to write a thank you note to your husband of 27 years after every encounter.
Yes. But what about you? I'm talking about mine. Talk about yours.
Oh, well, I just had a terrible smashing, crashing breakup, so I'm having no sex at all.
Good.
Yes.
Breakup
So
sex?
no, not yet. Actually, I'm in that terrible phase where it's just like, if I go out with somebody, I'm just like, if I like kiss you, I'm gonna cry in your mouth. Like it's not a good. It's
I'll
not.
send you a link to that special vibrator.
Yeah, especially.
I'll send you a link.
I don't know. When I start going out again, then I'll do like another show with you and be like, okay, this is happening now. But I mean, what were
Perhaps a show and tell.
right? Yeah, yes, a show and tell. Yes, I'll go get the rabbit collection. But I, you know, I kind of feel like so that relationship was like the first really significant one I had after I had reached a certain age, and I was like, oh damn, you know, like nothing has changed at all. Thank you, Mindy. I do have you guys, and you know what? Send all your men my way. Just send them over here. In about a month, I'll be better. I won't cry on them anymore. So if you know, have like cute, I don't know, nephews or something.
How young will you go, Jenna?
I mean, 19.
Oh!
No, I'm kidding. I think 35, maybe. You know, I don't want to traumatize anybody. When I was turning 40, I was dating a 25-year-old, and that really went super well until I I traumatized him, I think. So yeah, it's bad. But
I'm
he's
sure he
not
doesn't
on
think of it that way.
he's not on social media anymore. So I mean, something bad must have happened. But maybe it was anyway. So yeah, but I totally co-sign the essay. One of the frustrating things about being in this annoying little like weird grief phase is I'm just like, but it's that time of life though. Like bring on the carpenters, and like where are they all?
Oh, I like that. Bring on the carpenters.
Right, right, right on the carpenters. So I loved that, and I love the fact that like people don't have to just sort of put women on the shelf just because they get to a certain age. It's like, nope, we're here, haha. Like we are literally on fire. We have flames like shooting out of us. So one of the things that I love so much about the essays and about American Housewife, and I did like Dress Like a Book, and about Southern Lady Code is that they're all so funny. Like, can we talk about this a little bit? Like, is it hard to write funny? Let's start with that.
For me, it's just the way I talk. It's just the way I come from a very funny Southern family, and it's just the way I think and talk. People who know me read the book or they listen to the audiobook that I'll read, and they say, I feel like you're just at a dinner party, telling me stories. For me, my mantra when I started writing nonfiction, which is sort of a Southern Lady code that I use in day-to-day living, was be honest, be funny, and be kind. I really try not to be. Well, I'm not. I'm not unkind. I think you can be funny and kind. I think you can be funny and smart. I think you can be funny and serious. And for me, that funny business just helps me get the point across. And I like to I like to make myself laugh. So,
And do you make yourself laugh? Do you have a line in this book particularly that you like look at just to make yourself laugh every time? Because I love
well, I
that.
just did. It's terrible. It's terrible. Sometimes I do things. I write things. I'm like, oh, can't possibly go through. Well, oh God, there's many. But you had pulled out one about how I won't talk about my sex life. I won't tell you about my sex life, although I have been doing it now, or leave anything around the apartment to give you any clues. And there's a moment that says, like, I will not allow my husband to have, like a sleep apnea machine or a stripper pole in the house, because a stripper pole, if my friends saw that, all they would think was anus electrolysis. And if they saw, like a sleep apnea machine, they would just think salt and pepper pussy. It's so
Nobody
terrible,
likes
but
that.
it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh.
It made me laugh. Also, I underlined that one. Also, like I was just kind of looking down because I found it. I'm like, who writes this? And I'm like, oh, Helen. Like,
I surprised myself. I'm like, where did that come from? And
I didn't even know I knew that term, but
I think I made it up.
so funny. I love that, and a lot of that is in the essay. But all the essays are funny, and they're charming, and they are. You're right. Like they are honest and they're kind and funny. And I feel like that's such a difficult thing to do because sometimes being honest doesn't always equate being kind or doesn't.
Well, it's so easy to say something unkind. And I think it's also, just because you can write doesn't mean you have to write about sort of the worst thing that's happened to you or someone being unkind to you. Those things happen. I have lived through many a thing, but I want my books to be an escape. I want it to be a comfort to you. I want to be a friend to you. And so I am careful about what I choose to put in. I mean, there's definitely, some hard things I talk about, but I try to talk about them in a encouraging way.
Yes, I actually wanted to read, like you just gave me like a beautiful segue into one of the things that is in the Grown Ass Lady Gang essay that I really loved. So one of the friends gets surgery to get breast reconstruction, right? So I'll just read this. So this is the aftermath of that, the texts among the friend group. Heather texted, great news, give her my love. Ellen texted, awesome, thanks for the update. So glad to hear all went well. Paige texted, great. And I texted, sweet Lord, it was as easy as changing a pair of double D batteries, and I do mean double D. See what I mean about me reverting to adolescent humor with my grown-ass lady gang? Together we will forever be children. Fuck cancer. Nobody has to die. And I loved that because it was such an emphatic way of writing about something that is so difficult and so hard, but you also did it with like there's such a sort of a triple axle of emotions in that paragraph. Like it's funny, and then at the same time it's emphatic, and at the same time it's very honest. Like here, like sort of breaking the fourth wall in a way to the reader to be like, I'm being funny and I'm also being serious. So I really liked that.
Thank you. Well,
Combination.
I think about that piece took the longest for me to write. It's a very large piece, but it was hard for me to write because these women had been friends of mine for so long, and I wanted to make sure to do them justice. My friend Vicky, who was the one who'd had the double mastectomy, and I've known her since I was 10 years old, and all my life I read her whatever I wrote. Like I used to read her my diaries, and so she's always listened to me read fiction, nonfiction. This was the first time that Vicky was going to be the main character, the protagonist of a piece. And I really wanted to do her justice, as well as my friend Paige. And I remember sending them, because with me, with what I write, before it ever sees, before it's ever published or even put into book form, if you're in a piece, which these two women were, I send you the piece that I say, do you want me to take anything out? Did I get anything wrong? Do you want me to use your name? Do you want me to just lose the piece? And Vicky, I think the only thing she wanted to change was that she received 28 treatments instead of 26 treatments, but everything else she was happy with. So it's always interesting to see, what people will, what people will respond to. But I always get people's permission. I don't ever want to surprise someone. And the thing is, there's always something to write about. So if anybody was unhappy with the piece, I just wouldn't publish it. But that hasn't happened yet, because like with Bring Your Baggage and Don't Pack Light, they're love letters to my friends. Every single one. Every single essay starts with me wanting to brag about someone. Look how she beat cancer. Look how she got out of a bad marriage. Look how she had a baby on her own. Look how she got back alley Botox. It's just me wanting to brag on my friends.
Yeah, there's a lot of strength in these essays. What does your husband think about that? I feel like Betty Crocker asking that question. I'm like, oh, that's so nice about the ladies, but what does your husband think? Oh my.
Well, the book I just finished is all about him. It's all about marriage. So
really? Oh my God.
And he always appears in the pieces here and there. But he loves it. He as even with the, talking about our sex life, he comes off very well. Everybody comes off well. If you're in a piece, you're going to come off well. And I remember I sort of learned that from the Pulitzer winning Colson Whitehead, before he won his 2 Pulitzers, wrote a book on poker called The Noble Hustle, where he went off to play in the World Series. And at the time, I was a housewife. I had given up on writing, and he hired me as his poker coach. And so he gave me the book that I appear in as a character, a poker playing housewife, and said the same thing to me. If there's anything you want to change, I'm happy to do it. And I didn't change a word, but it showed me sort of a way to work, a level of respect for my subjects.
That is so nice. Okay, one has to ask, how did you become the poker playing housewife in Colson Whitehead's book? How did he find out about you? Did you play poker with him? Are you a secret?
Well, I have been
all over the poker world.
I've been playing poker since I was 6 years old, and I've been playing in casinos since I was 21. And I've been playing tournament poker since I think 2008. And one of my very best friends, the author Hannah Tinty, whose last book was The 12 Lives of Samuel Hawley, she was in a small cash game with another bunch of other writers, including Colson and Nathan Englander and John Hodgman, this vast literary group. And he said he's looking for a poker coach. And as the best gift ever given to me, Hannah said, I've got somebody for you. And so that's how I became his coach. And we just met many times. And we went out to Vegas together for the World Series. And it was great. And again, I was not writing. I had quit writing because I just had so much failure. And I thought, well, this is my life now. I'm going to be this, poker playing housewife. And looking at how he described me in the book, I thought, I'm good. I'm good with that. So that's how it came to be. And then I got it in my head thinking, well, if I'm, I read his depiction of me and he made me seem like a badass. And I thought, hey, maybe I am a little bit of a badass. If I can walk into a room of thousands of men and think I can beat them all, I can write a little story. And so I did. And then I wrote another, and then I wrote another. So it really that experience really sort of lit a fire under me and gave me my writing legs back.
Oh God, it gave you your mojo back. It's like how
It really did. It really did give me my mojo back.
that is fantastic. Does Colson know this? Oh my God, amazed. I love it. Okay, I have so many questions about this. It's like a fantastic story. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So, what is it like to have your friend who you coach playing poker win 2 Pulitzers?
I'm very impressed.
That's the writer envy question.
It's terrific. Those books are amazing. It's amazing.
Yes.
And when I went to sell, when American Housewife went up for sale, my editor, Jenny Jackson, who edits for Knopf and for Doubleday, came to my agent and said, I want to buy the book, but it will be under Doubleday, not Knopf. Is that okay? And I thought, well, that's Colson Whitehead's publisher. It's fine by me. It's Margaret Atwood's publisher. It's fine by me.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes someone sort of like has an influence over you that they might not know fully. Anyway, I'm just happy to have been in the orbit somehow.
Did it change anything?
What? And
just like, sort of when he won the prizes, like, is it like, does it have to be a time sink, or is it just like a weird, I imagine it's like having a big piece of furniture in the room that is an amazing piece of furniture, but it takes a while to figure out where to put it exactly because it's such a life-changing kind of thing.
Right? I don't know. We're within different friend groups. So I just see him with different friend groups. And I remember seeing him at, again, my friend Hannah Tinty is the editor of One Story magazine. And so there's an annual party. And I remember seeing him after he had won the Pulitzer for the Underground Railroad and saying, are you done? He says, no, I've written another one. And I said, why? And then he won another one.
Right. I know. It's a little bit like being at the casino and you get the jackpot and then you get another jackpot.
Yes. Let me tell you, if you hit a jackpot, walk away.
I know, right? Well, I'm always the person who's like, I'm not as nice as you are. So I'd be in the casino and somebody next to me would win a jackpot and I might begrudgingly be like, oh, good job. If they win another one right next to me while I was still putting in my nickels, I'd be like, okay, that's just really enough.
I saw Mindy said that she read Nickel Boys and listened to Harlem Shuffle. And I did, not Harlem, and Harlem Shuffle. I listened to Nickel Boys on audio. I thought that was a terrific audiobook. Do you listen to audiobooks, Jenna?
I do actually, and I'm happy to say you guys don't know this yet, but Blaze just partnered with Libro FM, which is
Libro.
We love Libro. Like all the authors love Libro because Libro, like Bookshop, supports independent bookstores. So every time you get a book from Libro, you're supporting an indie. So that just made my bookstore love and heart glad. I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Me too, always.
My dog Henry. Around my Boston neighborhood, and always when I drive, and I drive everywhere because I have a dog. So I drove down to Florida recently, and people are like, "Are you insane? You drove from Boston to Florida and back?" It's audiobook heaven. Like I'm not.
What did you listen to?
What did I listen to on the way down to Florida? Oh my gosh! On the way back, I listened to Jean Hanff Corlitz's The Plot.
Oh, how was it?
I loved it, and I'm usually not a thriller reader because I can't keep all the facts straight. So about 3/4 of the way through, I just think at the author, like, okay, if you say so. And then but it actually is one of the best books about writing and the writing life I've ever read. Like better than, as good as Stephen King's Misery, as good as On Writing, as good as, just like, I love books that are about writers.
I'll try it.
And it's hilarious. So we had interviewed her on Blaze, but for some reason I was like behind the curve, actually reading it. It is so enjoyable. Do you narrate your own audiobooks?
I narrate my nonfiction books. So American Housewife, and I'm such an audio fan. I got to participate in picking who would read American Housewife. We picked 4 women and they do such a stellar job. And I had one in particular, one narrator, Rebecca Lohman, who is such a great narrator. And I wanted her to read stories, and then I listened to other ones, and then I've fallen in love with another Southern narrator, Dorothy Dillingham Blue. And so whenever they read anything, I'll listen to whatever they're reading. But I tell you, you hear a story one way in your head when it comes to fiction, but then you hear in American Housewife, there's a piece called Dead Doorman, and one of the doormen has an Irish accent, and Rebecca did an Irish accent, which I could never do. And I will tell you that Dorothy Dillingham Blue read The Fitter, which was about a woman who was married to a bra fitter, and she was dying of breast cancer, and she's looking to replace herself as a wife. And she read that story better than it ever sounded in my head.
Mhm.
So I leave fiction to actresses, and then I read the nonfiction myself because I love to do it. I love to do it.
Yeah, you read beautifully, which is, as I think I said at the time, it's not always an easy thing to do, and not all authors are great readers. I am not. So, or
They're
I
not.
might be okay, but I don't enjoy it as much. And so, I'm so glad that you're doing your own nonfiction and got to choose your own people. Isn't it a strange thing to have your book made into audio? I find it such an honor that I always
Me too.
car, like
Love
crying listening to it. And then at the same time, I'm like, it's uncanny how some of the people sound exactly like you thought they might sound, and some of them sound nothing like it. And
it.
male characters read by a woman, they all sound like Nathan Lane, and
Or vice versa, men reading women.
yeah, also sounding like Nathan Lane, like everybody sounds like Nathan Lane. So we have some fantastic questions coming in from the audience, and I know Karen is our producer tonight. Maybe she might want to pop a couple up.
Oh,
Okay,
I
Francine
read it.
asked, "Do you write every day, Helen?"
When I just finished, like I said, I just finished a book, and I met with my editor today. So I stopped writing that book 3 weeks ago. And up to that point, I wrote pretty much every day. And that might be 2 hours. That's sort of my minimum, is I'll just do 2 hours a day. But then when I'm really in the heat of revisions and finishing, after it's like I guess running. I'm not a runner, but apparently you start off, and the more you run, the longer you can go. um, and I'll go for 6 hours, but usually it's just 2 hours a day, 2 to 4, pretty much every day. It's a good habit to get into, because even if because some days you show up and you write a paragraph, but
Mhm.
then the next day you have a paragraph. And some days you show up and you go into a trance and you write many, many pages. But yeah, I write every day. But the best part of writing is not writing, which is what I'm doing now. I love it. I'm like, oh, I'm not writing today.
There are these kind of like wonderful periods I find in writer life where you're waiting for somebody to read something that you already wrote, so you have that sense of virtue, but you're not actually working on
Well,
anything.
that's the great thing about essays, is I'll turn over, a piece for my writing workshop, which is for 25 years. I've had the same writing workshop, which is Hannah Tinty and Anna Napolitano, whose last book was Dear Edward. And we've read
Yeah.
each other's work for years, and I'll turn it over to them. But with an essay, I'll just start another one. Because they're so different. Yeah.
You have a grown ass lady gang of writer friends too.
I do. I
Yeah,
do.
those are some serious like lady gangsters. Okay, so Mindy wants to know, what kind of books did you enjoy reading when you were growing up?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, Judy Blume, of course, because I felt like she was telling me secrets. um, and I'll tell you, for the last 10 years, I've been in a book club, and it's a classic trashy book club. So we read a lot of books that I was not allowed to read
Like
as a
what?
young person. So we're reading, we read Judith Krantz, Jackie Collins, Dominic Dunn, Shirley Conrad. The list goes on and on. Cindy Sheldon. But when I was a kid, I probably read a lot of horror. I really loved Stephen King. And I really loved, uh, sort of domestic drama. I've still yet to read V.C. Andrews, and I keep trying to get our group to read it. And I need to read, Flowers in the Attic and the like.
You know what? I never read that either, which is so weird because I came of age in the same era when, like, I
Mhm.
actually did sneak all the books off my mom's shelves. I love the Judith Krantz novels,
Yes.
like Princess Daisy. I was like, "Ooh," you know,
Oh,
like, no
Princess
wonder they
Daisy
have
is the
vibrant
best.
sex lives.
And the dog doesn't die. I can tell you every time I just read and listened to, but I go back and forth sometimes, Lessons in Chemistry, which is The Color of This Wall. It's a new book, and her
Oh,
first
yeah.
name is Bonnie. It's on the bestseller list, and it is fantastic. And it's from my publisher, and I start to read it, and I text my publicist and say, "Does this dog die?"
Mm,
And he says,
aw.
"No, the dog doesn't die." So I finished the rest of it, and it was fantastic because I do not enjoy it when the dog dies.
I know, don't read my last book
I
then.
I
Okay,
did not
so
bear it. I'm
I
sorry.
know you can. You could read the whole book and just skip the last
I
chapter, and it
may,
would
I
be
may.
totally fine. I will send it to you. Okay,
Please.
so I wanna know, yeah, so Minnie is saying she's in a retro book club with Jamie Brenner, and they read,
Oh,
Judith
yes,
Crane.
I know Jamie very well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she has this fantastic I love the retro book club. What is your favorite Judith Krantz novel?
It's hands down Princess Daisy. Hands down
I love
Princess
this
Daisy.
movie. Oh my
It
gosh.
has great sex in it. It has great characters in it. And, to be honest with you, one of the reasons I like it is when you're reading a lot of books from the 80s and before, um, rape is a very common plot point. And it's never called that. And
No,
she calls it that. And it was so refreshing to see it. This wasn't your fault. What you experienced was rape and it's a crime. And you just don't see that. It's just sort of like par for the course. So I appreciated that.
that's true. I had totally forgotten about
That's what a
that.
bodice ripper is. You
Yes.
know,
Yes, I need to go back and reread that. My favorite, yeah, I love
fantastic.
reading the old novels. My favorite, Judith Krantz novel, which I'm gonna reread actually, is Mistral's
Love
Daughter.
it. We read it. Love it.
Right?
And I think that book, and has like one of the best endings of any book. So I'm not going to tell you, but I think it's one of the best endings of any book.
I'm trying to I should be able to remember it off the bat because
There
when
was
I
a pair.
written things into a book, I, memorize it. Those people are real people to me. I loved Mistral. I remember the whole thing.
But the
I'm
thing
gonna go
about
back
Judith
and
Krantz, and the thing about so many of these books that we read in book club, is the women started their writing careers in their 50s. She started writing in her 50s. Jackie Collins started very, midlife. There's a great documentary out called Lady Boss on Jackie Collins and her writing life. Dominic Dunn started in his 50s. Sidney Sheldon, Harold Robbins. There's an authority that comes um, with a writer sometimes at that age, and I appreciate that. I feel like I'm with a steady hand.
I think that's true. I think there's a sort of also like a don't give a shitness about it, where you just are like, this is my truth, and I'm going to say the truth, or I'm just going to stride onto the page and say, with clarity, things that I have observed or, wanted always to write about. And
Well,
it's just like,
you're not scared of failing anymore.
yeah.
What's the worst that's gonna happen?
Yeah, there is that. I want to ask so many questions. I'm going to ask Karen if there are any more questions, but if not, I'm going to ask a couple more, and then we're coming up actually on an hour, which is like shocking to me because it's sitting around drinking and having fun. But what when you said you lost your writing mojo, can you give us a thumbnail of like what your writer life was like? What you just said
So
about failure
I
reminded me of
was
that. So
I'll
they
tell you,
can.
in 1999, I went about writing my first novel in a sort of traditional way. I moved to New York City because that's where you're supposed to go to be a writer. You do not have to do that. I applied to grad school after having worked a day job for 3 years. You do not have to go to grad school to be a writer. I was rejected by every grad school and got in off a wait list at NYU. I wrote my first novel, Eating the Cheshire Cat, in grad school. I got an agent. I got published. I went on a whirlwind tour. I got a big six-figure deal. And then I wrote another book and nobody would publish it. And then I wrote another book and nobody would publish it. And then I wrote a third novel and nobody would publish it. And then I quit writing and nobody cares. And I did not publish for 15 years. And I began to, identify as a housewife, because part of that, after two novels had failed, my husband said, quit your day job and just write. And I did that. Nope. Nobody bought that one. So I quit writing for years. And when people would meet me at parties or whatever, what do you do? And I started to tell the truth, which was I'm a housewife. And usually, if there was another question, but there usually wasn't another question, the question was, what do you do all day? And I started this Twitter account anonymously called What I Do All Day. And I started to see at the time when I started it, like back in 2014, I think Twitter was in a different place. It was a more creative, sort of fun place. And Twitter was a great editor because if you retweeted, you knew that was a good sentence. If you weren't, it wasn't good. And I started to see patterns develop in what I was tweeting about. Like I was tweeting about my book club. So I thought maybe I'll write a story about a book club that has an ulterior motive. Or I was tweeting about Dancing with the Stars. And I thought, what would happen if an author, went on a reality show? You never see an author on a reality show. And I started to write these stories and send them out into slush piles. And, of university presses, they had no idea who I was. And I started to get pulled. Every single story was pulled out of a slush pile and published. And then I had a collection, and my agent said, let's see if we can get it published. And we did. And I just sat ass backwards into a book deal. And when I got that second chance, I never looked back. I'll never give it up. I've never been as productive as I have in my 40s and now 50s because I appreciate it.
Oh my God. Well, thank God. And what that is such an inspiring and interesting story. Every writer's story is a little bit different, but I've never heard that one where you have this long intermission and I'm getting this thing saying my Mac will sleep soon, but like, nope. Okay. I still have like 11% left on the Mac. So if I just wink out, that's why it's not. So I'm amazed. There's so many things I want to say about that. The first being that like Twitter is sort of a great curator of content. And that's probably like the best excuse I've heard to be on Twitter and not just like drunk tweeting at Republicans. So that
it was a way to sort of find a different way to write.
Mhm.
I always thought, oh, you write every morning before work, like John Grisham used to do. You do 1,500 words a day, like Stephen King says you're supposed to do. And now my mantra is different book, different process.
Mhm.
And I'm much more forgiving of the process. So yeah, Twitter really gave me my writing life back.
Twitter and Colson Whitehead. You're a badass playing poker. Like nobody's ever going to be able to beat those stories. I totally love it. Okay, so last question from me, which is if you could look back over your career and say to your young self moving to New York from Alabama, and sort of tell her something about where you are now, what would you say?
I would say it doesn't have to be perfect. Your life doesn't have to be perfect because nobody wants to read about perfect. And if you struggle writing life, if you struggle to make something perfect, you really sometimes wring the life out of it. You want to just produce as much as you can. And then I hate to say it, write what I will tell you, like 20 years ago, my husband and I went to New Orleans for the first time, and we were in our early 20s, and I hadn't published anything yet. And I went to see a, tarot card reader because that's what you do in New Orleans. And the tarot card reader says to me, you are with a man who is sick, meaning he will destroy your life. You need to leave him. And I come out of the tarot card reader just in tears. We've been together like 8 months, and I was in tears. And he says, what is it? I tell him, and he said, if she had told you you would never be a writer, would you have believed her? And I said, no. And he said, so why do you believe her about me? And he has given me 4 books of material ever since. I married my muse.
Oh my gosh, that is so lovely. That is super lovely. So even though I think of your husband when I read about him in the books, he's kind of like the gentleman of the book club who comes in through the garage and is like, "Is the book club still going on?"
Yeah,
and then
on the other side of that door.
like, yeah, so he just like kind of like walks behind her. But I mean, he also is inspiring all of these books, or at least giving you material. We're so grateful, and I'm so grateful you got the second chance. Thank you, Twitter. Thank you, Colson. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you,
Round of
Jenna,
applause.
and thank you, Karen, and thank you, Mindy and Francis, and everyone else that I saw in the chat. I appreciate it so very much.
Oh my gosh, we had the best time with you. Thank you so much. And we can't wait to read it. What's the name of the new book so we can look for it?
I can't say it yet.
Okay.
It'll be out in 2023.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, will you text me when you can so that I can announce it? Okay. I'm gonna scoop that for everybody. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Baggage, which we love. Thank you, everybody. And everybody come to the baking show tomorrow because we're having heartbreak brownies, and I'm gonna show up and cry, and we'll have mascara all over my face, and it will be a joy for all concerned.
Yum.